My entitled psycho manager tried to frame one of my coworkers for stealing from the store, as he was making fake returns to our store just to cash out as much money as he possibly could. But thankfully, I helped turn the tables by clearing my coworker's name, resulting in this manager not only getting in trouble with management, but also getting arrested by the police. Here's what happened. Way back in the year 2000, I was this adorable, naive 19-year-old working retail at a picture framing place. The management of our little shop consisted of our manager Jenny, the assistant manager Nick, and me, the third key. And for those who don't know, a third key is literally that, a third person with the keys. I had the ability to open and close the store and act as manager on duty, but if Jenny or Nick was there, then I was just a regular employee. And also for reference, names have been changed to protect the not so innocent. Jenny was an amazing manager. She was middle-aged but really cool. She had had a lot of fun in the 70s and wasn't shy about telling us her hilarious stories. She was also kind of like the shop mom. She made cookies and was always very in tune with people's emotions. She always knew the right thing to say to make me feel better, and she was a fountain of real-world wisdom. Everybody loved her. She was also an artist, and her work was starting to pick up steam. That, combined with the onset of some health issues, made her decide that retail work just wasn't for her anymore. We were all really sad, but definitely understood. Now, Nick was just a college kid and definitely didn't want or really qualify to be promoted to manager, so corporate brought in a manager in training to work as a fourth member of the management. For the sake of the story, let's call him Steve. Steve was weird. He was a huge white guy that dressed in clothes that looked like they come right out of Bill Cosby's wardrobe. Loud sweaters in Arizona heat. I was basically a golden retriever puppy and tried to chat with him while teaching him the ropes when it was my turn to have him shadow me, but he just wouldn't engage. And it's not only that, but he would stare at me while I worked. Just sit in the office chair and stare. I tried to chalk it up with him just being awkward, but it was creepy. Even when I was trying to teach him something, he would barely interact. When he did talk, it was usually about how amazing he was at his last job and how low the pay was for managers in our company. And it's like, yeah, no kidding, it's retail. Okay, so on to the meat of my story. Remember when I said that Jenny was having issues with her health? She called me one Saturday afternoon when I was off and asked if I'd come in and fill for her. And of course I did. I ran down to the shop to relieve her. She was having a really bad day and I was happy to close for her. I also worked the next day on Sunday and the day after that on Monday. That Monday, our district manager came in while I was manager on duty, and it was there that we started chatting. Like I said, I was basically a chatterbox, so this wasn't unusual. He asked me how Steve was doing, and I tried to diplomatically tell the guy that Steve was a dud, using the example that on Saturday when I relieved Jenny, he had just sat in the office or wandered the floor the whole night. The district manager seemed a little startled, but not about the guy's behavior, but the fact that Jenny hadn't been in the store after 3:00 p.m. After being in our store for about 6 weeks, Steve started swapping out with another store in the neighboring city and acting as manager on duty by himself. And Steve was thrilled because he actually lived in this other city, and the rest of us just assumed that this was part of his training, but my God, were we completely wrong. It turns out there'd been a whole lot of shrink happening at our store, a huge uptick in people paying with a credit card and then coming back later and getting a cash refund. Back then, if you did a return on a credit card or a debit card, it took a few days for the money to show back up on your bank account. If people got mean about it, we could do a cash refund, but it had to be approved by a member of the management by signing in with a register code and using their key. Well, we come to find out that thousands of dollars worth of returns were being done in cash multiple times a day, whereas before we would have maybe 1 or 2 a week. And what's even worse is that it appeared that Jenny was the one doing all these returns. They seemed to think that Jenny was taking all she could get before she retired. That is, until I told the district manager about filling in for Jenny. Apparently, a very large credit card transaction, namely $750, had been returned that night at around 7:00 p.m., and Jenny's code was the one used. When I said that she wasn't even there, in my own naive way, I kinda saved her. It turns out that Jenny had just given Steve her register code to train him because it took a few days for him to get his own, all because of some computer glitch at corporate. After my offhand remark, they took a closer look at our old schedule on paper, as the management team didn't clock in or out, and they realized that half these returns were happening on days when Jenny wasn't even there. So they switched Steve to the store in the other city, which had a better surveillance system, and caught him using another employee's code to try and pull the same trick, as well as just flat out pulling cash from the till. I'm not sure what the actual charges were, but from what I heard, he was very startled when he showed up to work to find the district manager, as well as 2 sheriff detectives waiting in the other store's office for him. I mean, he was literally perp walked out in handcuffs, and I was so upset that they didn't do it in our store. Jenny ended up leaving shortly after. The stress was was just too much for her. Nick was made temporary manager, and he and I split opening and closing duties for a couple of months, with me mostly opening and him closing the store. Then we finally got a new manager who'd been entirely trained at other stores. And sure, he was okay, but he was no Jenny. But thankfully, he was no Steve either, which in my opinion is a massive win. Wow, this guy's a massive piece of garbage. Not only was he stealing from the store, but he tried to throw Jenny under the bus. And I can completely see this happening. I'm sure Jenny was just trying to be nice and be like, look, just use my code for training, it's totally fine. And I'm sure she had some semblance of trust towards Steve by being like, oh, it's okay, he's not gonna screw me over, right? I mean, thank God for the original poster for literally like clearing Jenny's name right there on the spot, even though they didn't realize that's what they were doing. Because people like Steve make me sick. And the fact that he would try and throw someone else under the bus, literally right on the verge of them retiring, in my opinion, is one of the scummiest things he could possibly do. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not giving my younger brother my gaming console? All because he broke his previous one, and I don't completely trust him by having mine. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have a younger brother who we will call Jack, who is notorious for being careless with his belongings. Last year, my parents got him a PlayStation 5, and he was thrilled. But unfortunately, he never took care of it properly. He would leave it on the floor, toss the controller around, and spill snacks everywhere while playing. A couple of weeks ago, he spilled soda all over the console, and it stopped working. My parents told him he wouldn't get a new one because it was his responsibility to take care of it. And ever since then, he's been begging to use my Xbox Series X, but I've said no every single time. Here's the thing. I worked a summer job and I saved up to buy my Xbox. I take excellent care of it because I paid for it myself. Jack got his PlayStation as a gift, so I feel like he didn't value it the same way that I value mine. Well, now Jack is calling me selfish and unfair, and my parents are actually split on this. My dad says that I'm right because it's my console, and I shouldn't have to share it if I don't want to. But my mom thinks that I'm being too harsh on him, and that I should help him out because he's just a kid. I don't trust him to not damage my Xbox, and I think it's a good lesson for him to learn about consequences. But still, my mom and Jack keep trying to guilt trip me, and I'm now starting to wonder, am I the jerk for refusing to let him use my gaming console? Because right now, I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all because I don't blame you. He clearly does not care about the things around him because he literally destroyed his previous console by spilling soda on it. Like, first of all, how do you let that happen? But also, your parents got it right before they flip-flopped. This was his responsibility to take care of it, and he should have been more responsible with his belongings. So for him to come to you and be like, oh, please, give me your Xbox, I want to play on it. It's like, no, you're not taking it, this is mine, and I'm not going to let you destroy this as well. So no, you're not the jerk, and I honestly would try to make efforts to hide that Xbox from your brother, or even just make sure that he doesn't have access to it, because clearly he is irresponsible, and I wouldn't be surprised if he destroyed your property as well. Am I the jerk for not going on family vacation 2 months after giving birth? Because right now, my family's making me feel horrible for backing out, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, in May, my husband's parents planned a huge family beach vacation for his grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary for next summer, and we had 100% planned on going. However, we found out in September that we are expecting a baby, and the due date is about 2 months before the trip. So I told my in-laws that we will not be able to go on the trip, as I don't want to travel with a 2-month-old baby across the country, and that we also could not afford to take an extra week off of work because I will not have a paid maternity leave. Well, his mom is very frustrated with me because they were planning on having me and my husband drive his grandparents down with us, which as a side note, we were never told about, by the way, and according to them, a baby is completely fine to travel 700 miles after 2 months. When I bring up my concerns about not being able to afford to live, she'll say to me, well, let's just hope he's born a week or two late, which I think that's kind of crappy to hope for. My husband is completely on my side, and his siblings and cousins are mixed. Some of them are saying that we should honor our commitment to go because we said we would before we knew, while others are more understanding of our concerns. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated. No, you're not the jerk. These people are complete idiots. Anyone who's seriously saying, wow, what's the problem here? It's only 700 miles of traveling for a 2-month-old. Like, that's insane. That really is not fair for you. Also, it sounds like they only want you to go so you can drive your grandparents. And that is like, oh wow, so you only want me to go so you can use me for transportation. So to me, it sounds like they're more upset that you're not going because they need a ride for the grandparents, as opposed to you being there because they want you there, which in my opinion is way worse. Like, that alone would have been a deal breaker, especially with them not telling you beforehand? Like, are you kidding me? You're already driving 700 miles, let alone with a 2-month-old in the car, and now they want to add 2 more people in there just for the heck of it and be like, oh yeah, you'll drive them too, right? Like, that is crazy to me, and there's no way I would ever put up with that. So I don't blame you for not going, because the way your family's acting is incredibly shady. Am I the jerk for not buying my sister a Christmas gift, all because she lost or sold my expensive gloves and refuses to replace them? Because right now I'm out about $250 and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I live in a part of Canada that gets very cold. We're talking negative 40 degrees Celsius or even colder. I often work outside and I love to ski, and I will work in negative 40 degrees Celsius and ski in the cold up to negative 30 degrees Celsius. Therefore, I bought some gloves that cost $250 that are graded for negative 50 degrees Celsius a few years ago. Now, I had moved to a place for a year where I didn't need my cold gear, so I left it at my parents'. Well, my sister called to ask me if she could use these gloves to shovel the walks. I initially said no because it would take 10 minutes and it's only negative 10 degrees Celsius, but she screamed at me, so I reluctantly agreed. Well, I came home for Christmas and the gloves are missing. And keep in mind, I haven't been home since she used them. She's now moved away, and I called her up asking her where they are. She said that she put them back, but they're not there. I asked if she had any other ideas of where they might be, and it was then that she screamed at me and said no, while also telling me to F off and that she put them back. I tore apart my room and I checked every nook and cranny in the house, but to no avail, including my sister's room. And guess what? She also had a breakdown about that over the phone when I said this. Now, for context, my sister has a bad history of stealing things or selling off our things and then denying it. She has stolen much of my mom's things and many of mine, and we're talking stuff like jewelry and clothing. In fact, when I was looking in her room for my gloves, I actually found the family laptop that had gone missing that she denied taking, and about 5 articles of my clothes. When she steals, sells, or loses things of ours, she always goes straight to screaming at us. Both of my parents said they're 100% sure my sister is the reason they're gone. My dad said he thinks that she stole them because he saw the same pair on Facebook Marketplace a while back, but didn't care to check the posting name at the time because no one knew they were missing. My mom says that she saw her take them from my room, but never saw her put them back in my room when she came back inside. Anyways, I replaced the gloves with the exact same model because I'm going to a place where I'll be working outside again in literally negative 40 degree weather. And by the way, this is up to 8 hours at a time. I also want to ski over Christmas and it is very cold. I need high quality gloves because I actually would get frostbite. When my parents asked what I got my sister for Christmas, I said that I got nothing because the money for her gift went towards replacing my gloves. Even though my family 100% agrees that she either lost or stole them, they're saying that I'm being a jerk and should apologize to my sister and buy her a gift. They're not making my sister apologize for selling or losing or even stealing them, and are instead going to gradually pay me back the $250 on my sister's behalf. So am I the jerk for not getting a Christmas gift from my sister? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. Oh no, this is absolutely not okay with me because this is so crazy. She stole those gloves, like straight up, nobody can tell me otherwise. She took those out of your room and she never returned them. And I bet you all the money in the world she absolutely sold those on Facebook because the clues are all lining up. Apparently these people live in a small town, so the fact that anyone on Facebook Marketplace, you know, the store that literally is localized to where you live, would somehow have this exact same pair up for sale, in my opinion, is not a coincidence. Plus, there's plenty of evidence in your sister's stupid room that yes, she's been stealing all along. So if she really wants some kind of Christmas present, then she needs to start by returning the things that she's stolen, which of course is never gonna happen. Because honestly, I can't stand people who act like the sister in this story, because lying thieves like that, in my opinion, are truly the scum of the earth. My job has slowly worn me down, as I now find myself unable to smile and laugh like I used to. So right now, I'm worried that I might be very burned out at this job, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so maybe this is a weird one, but I've repeatedly noticed recently that I don't really come across as sweet and gentle as I used to when I started serving at this restaurant. When I started this job, I could never pick a fight with anyone. I was constantly very friendly and enthusiastic with my tables. But nowadays, in some ways, I am still the same. The sense of humor is similar, but it's not there as much. I'm always pleasant to tables, but even a man who comes in regularly told me recently on one of my shifts that I've lost my spark. The sense of humor or general character just is not there. I've noticed recently a lot more when I go into my shifts, I feel fine, but I can't smile as much as I used to and I don't have the desire for it. I've been told on multiple occasions I look a bit miserable and I need to smile more by either my manager or my coworkers. I honestly do not know what has happened happened. Admittedly, I've had a lot of mental health issues this year, which are probably contributing, but I enjoy my job. It's tiring, but it's sociable, and the money is okay. I've noticed it even with my approach to people. I'm a lot more direct and firm with tables than usual, and this is the same with coworkers. Once upon a time, I would have found difficulty saying no to people and would have been a pushover, but nowadays, depending on the situation, I have no problem putting my foot down about something. I used to be gentle, sweet, very funny with tables, and now, while I will always be pleasant and try to have a laugh with the tables, I just can't find the core for the usual character. I sometimes have nights I just can't make conversations with anyone, and we're talking coworkers or tables. Once upon a time, I'd have tried to make an effort with everybody, but I'm honestly worried about what's going on. So seriously, what's happening with me? Am I just burned out or what? What should I do? Okay, honestly, as someone who has worked in restaurants before, this is not uncommon. Let me tell you something, you can only do so much. You deal with a lot of people all day, every day, and you do everything that you can to give them a good experience at the restaurant. But I can seriously say I've experienced the same thing that you're going through. You work a job so much and you do your very best, but eventually you hit a breaking point. You get nothing in return and it feels like, oh man, I just can't do this as well as I used to. So sure, you might be burned out just a little bit, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, and it might just be a sign that yes, you need to mix it up a little bit. Whether that's mixing up how you're going to work or what you're doing at work, or even how you approach thinking about the whole thing. Do you really need to be that guy that's constantly friendly and enthusiastic with every table, or trying to crack a joke or whatever? I understand if you're trying to do that to get better tips or something like that, but doing that for every table, that seems like a bit much. Because what I learned is if you can at least be somewhat neutral and cordial with your tables, then yeah, you're gonna have a good night and it's gonna be fine. You don't have to stretch yourself so much, and you can find some kind of middle ground where you can operate and do your job and still have some kind of positive feedback from customers and coworkers. So hopefully you can take some time off and figure things out, because honestly, I think the way you're feeling is completely normal, especially when you consider that you work in the restaurant industry, which in my opinion can be one of the most volatile industries on the face of the earth. Am I the jerk for not attending my family Christmas gathering, all because I can't afford the $250 white elephant gift exchange? Because right now my family is claiming that I'm overreacting and that I'm being petty for not being able to join in on this stupid exchange. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my family has a tradition where we do a big Christmas get-together every single year, and the highlight is the white elephant gift exchange. It's always been a fun time, but this year my family decided to raise the price limit to $250 per gift, and I'm honestly a little shocked. I get that inflation has hit, but that's a lot of money for one gift, especially for something that's supposed to be fun and quirky, not something super expensive or meaningful. I have a pretty tight budget this year, with unexpected medical bills and just general life expenses. After paying for all my bills and essentials, there's barely enough left for me to get by. The idea of spending $250 on a gift is totally unrealistic for me, and I'm expected to show up for the family dinner and festivities. I started feeling like I was being pushed out of the tradition because of my financial situation. I told her that honestly, if I can't participate in the gift exchange, then I might not come at all. I didn't want to be the person who has to sit awkwardly and watch everyone else exchange expensive gifts when I couldn't contribute. Plus, I didn't want to feel embarrassed about not meeting their expectations. Well, my mom thinks that I'm being petty and that it's just one gift. My dad then says I'm overreacting and that it's not about the price, it's about the spirit of Christmas, which to be fair, I do agree with, but still, $250? Are you kidding me? Some of my siblings are saying I should just suck it up and join in because it's about being together, while others are telling me they agree with me, but are still going to participate since the majority of the family agreed to this. There's approximately 18 to 25 people in my family that will be there, and we are still expected to get gifts for our family members as well. I really don't want to make a big scene or cause drama, but at the same time, I feel like this is a massive financial burden that's being placed on me, and I just don't know if it's worth it to show up and feel out of place. So seriously, am I the jerk if I decide to sit this one out? Because right now I feel very ostracized and I don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, I don't think you're the jerk, because $250 for a white elephant gift exchange, that is crazy to me. Maybe it's just me, but that seems like a really high limit for what you're gonna get for a gift. Because you said it best. This is supposed to be a fun time, right? You're supposed to give out funny, quirky gifts and just have a good time. Because the way they're explaining this kind of makes it seem like, oh yeah, we're gonna spend hundreds of dollars on this. And it's sure, maybe you can do that, but I can't. And trust me, I get it. Having all these bills racking up, especially medical bills in the United States, those expenses can be insane sometimes, and I don't blame you for being wait wait a second, I can't afford this. So when you say spending $250 on a gift exchange is totally unrealistic, trust me, I understand where you're coming from, and I don't blame you for not wanting to do this. Now, when it comes to your parents being like, oh wow, it's just one gift, you're being petty, you're overreacting right now, it's not about the price, it's about the spirit of Christmas. It's like, okay, come on, wait a second. If they really want you to be a part of this and you're explaining, hey, I can't do this, they can either be accepting and allow you to be there and not make a big deal out of it, or they can pitch in and be like, oh, okay, here's some money to buy something for the gift exchange. Like, that would be reasonable. There's no reason they wouldn't be able to do that, especially if they're gonna jack up the price that much. Like, if I'm doing a white elephant gift exchange, I'm gonna max out at $50 if that. So no, you're not the jerk for not wanting to attend the family Christmas get-together, because what they're asking of you, especially in your time of need, in my opinion, is a little bit absurd. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.